Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
This episode is brought to you by Latin Excellence. Visit latinexcellence.com. That's Latinx, CELLENCE.com or latinxmovement.com to learn more and shop our merchandise. You are excellence. Hello and welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis Rosa. I have a very special guest today. His name is Ivan Aragon, Ivan Aragon. He's a native of Chihuahua, Mexico. He moved to Phoenix, Arizona as a child. He played football at Phoenix Community College, where he was selected as Male Student Athlete of the Year his second year. He later transferred to Arizona State University to continue his studies. Following his undergraduate studies, he excelled in the mortgage, insurance, and supply chain industries. A proud DACA recipient, he was admitted to the University of Michigan's MBA program in 2017. While at Michigan Ross, he was elected to his section's president and to the Michigan Ross MBA Council Student Government as VP of Finance, among other club leadership roles. He is an associate in business from Phoenix Community College, a BS in finance from Arizona State University, and an MBA from the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. He also serves on the board of directors of the University of Michigan's Latino Alumni Association and as president of the Ross School of Business Alumni's Phoenix chapter. Ivan is currently a residential mortgage broker based out of Phoenix, Arizona. He is licensed in multiple states. He loves helping people attain homeownership and invest in residential real estate. He also hosts the Home Loan MBA podcast, where he discusses the home loan process and interviews real estate professionals. In his free time, you can find him cooking a meal for his extended family, playing indoor volleyball, or on the salsa and bachata dance floors in Phoenix. All right. Well, without further ado, welcome, Ivan.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, man. Man, this is awesome. I'm getting excited here. Salsa and bachata. And tell me about some of the stuff that you cook. I see you like being in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love Mexican food. It's my comfort food, but I like everything, though. So I'm known for picking up the right ingredients, trying little things here and there, and make your comfort food when things are going bad. But also, it's cathartic for me to just go out there and cook and cook for others as well. Kind of like that.
That's awesome.
That service personality.
Yeah, I like that, man. I kind of wish I had that because I like to eat. I don't like the cooking process so much. So I see cooking as a chore. So every time I see somebody that really enjoys it, I'm like, oh man, I really wish I had that. Because but maybe it's for a reason. Because as much as I like to eat, maybe it's good that I don't like to cook.
It's fun. It's fun. It's just, I think for me, it's I guess it's my art, right? It's a process of art, of putting things together. So I when I go out, I love appreciating when you go to small restaurants or something and they're serving their food, the little things that they do, right? Like sometimes Mexican food, they add a little different spice and you're like, oh, I could tell that. That's so cool.
Nice. You're right. That. It's an art form. Absolutely. Man, so yeah, today, I definitely want to talk about all kinds of things with you, entrepreneurship, your background and organizations that you're part of, et cetera. So, before we get into it, tell us a little bit about your background. You coming to this country with your family and all that?
Yeah, so we came when I was 9 years old. I came on a Friday, started fifth grade on a Monday.
Wow.
And it's funny that, we kind of discussed how to say my name right earlier. And that I remember that first day of school very clearly because my teacher was asking me what's my name. And she didn't speak a lick of Spanish. And I kept saying, Ivan. And she kept saying, Ivan. And I'm like, that sounds like the female version, right? And
right.
So, and I'm like, no, it's Ivan. And she finally said, oh, Ivan. And I remember just feeling like that felt better than Ivan. And so I said, okay.
Run with it. Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I kind of get something similar with Luis and Luis.
Mm-hmm.
But, when people try to say it in Spanish, but they don't speak Spanish, sometimes it just sounds like the female version, like Luis, right?
Yeah.
So I started saying Luis as well. So that's so funny.
So, so ever since then, I've gone by both. So when someone asks me, what do you prefer? I say both. People can call me Ivan, you call me Ivan. I'm going to turn around and talk to you.
There you go.
And so My family came. I'm the youngest of four, immigrant family. Obviously, I'm a first generation immigrant. I was undocumented for a good amount of my life, especially during undergrad. It wasn't until 2012 when DACA came out that I was able to go from basically doing contract work everywhere to being fully employed. And That's been an adventure since then. And I'm very open about that part of my story. Because one is I'm privileged enough that I'm able to be open about it. And I know there's a lot of people that can't be. So it's important that people recognize the face and see somebody that may be different than what is portrayed in the media at times.
Yeah, agreed. And you live an example of how these programs really work. I mean, look, you came here and you're a productive member of society. You elevated yourself and now you're helping others as well.
Exactly. And that's my goal, to make sure that others can come up as well. And not just say like, hey, this is one example that made it, to really be the old example that made it, because there's so many new examples that they came after me.
Yeah, for sure. And what better way to do it than with home ownership, huh?
Exactly. It's like the Urban Institute published a study this year that said that the 70% of the homeownership growth in the United States in the next 20 years is going to be Latino. And so it's important that our Latinos get the best home ownership. Don't just get a home, but get the best home for them. And that's where my goal is, to make sure that not only Latinos, but communities of color, but everybody that needs to grow in this country has a piece of that American dream.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Latino buying power, it's undeniable, and it just keeps growing. We have a lot of economic influence, and I think that a lot of the times, one of the things that I do as a financial planner is trying to help like people with transgenerational wealth, because I feel like when you're economically empowered, then you can do things for your community and for yourself. We need more people like us, right, getting elected. We need more people like us in boardrooms, more people like us owning homes, so that every generation doesn't have to start all over again, right? We can continue just empowering the people, So I'm glad that, we were able to link up. And so tell me a little bit about your trajectory. Once you got to school, I see you were playing football. And I'm guessing this is American football, right? Not football.
This is definitely a podcast. If you ever see a picture of me, I'm a big guy. I joined when I was a freshman in high school. I knew I wanted to play American football, and the reason is I didn't make my 8th grade basketball team. It was one of the best in the state, but I was the last guy out, the last guy cut. So when I went to high school, I'm like, I think football looks a better thing for me as a bigger guy. And I joined this Phoenix Central High School, go Bobcats, that inner city high school football team. I had no clue what was going on from the beginning. I just knew I was a big guy and big guys play football. And I fell in love with the sport. Absolutely love football. And any of my friends today know me. I'm a big football guy. For my teams, for my college teams. And I became pretty successful at it. And I ended up being my ticket to, as a non-documented student, paying for part of my first 2 years of college at Phoenix College.
That's amazing.
When that was still something that could happen for undocumented students, and got to be able to successful at it. Fortunately, I couldn't play after that because of my status. Really, I couldn't play after that. But I love it, and it's become part of me. So a lot of the lessons that I learned in tenacity, in not giving up, in knowing to adjust your game, right, when things didn't go your way, come from my learning how to play basically the chess of football.
That's amazing. So a lot of life lessons there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to see that, right? And then apply it later on in your life. That is awesome. And so tell me about then your trajectory once you got to college and all that. Like, how did you go about like choosing your major?
So that's a fun one. I always liked numbers. I liked business. My father was an entrepreneur in Mexico, and he owned a furniture shop, and he used to make plant and sell and also run apple orchards. So when I was a young boy in Mexico, we had an apple orchard and a furniture shop. He unfortunately passed away when I was 7 months old due to pancreatic cancer. So my mom is the one that had to take over that business. And so I got to see it firsthand, uh, business and a lot of the challenges that came with being a business owner as a kid. Uh, and and that always excited me to knowing that you could run your own path, right? And when we came to the United States, my mom went from being a business owner um, to being a housekeeper and a babysitter because that was what was available for her, and that to provide for us and for me, right? Well, I was
Yeah.
the youngest at that point, and uh, having seen all that and going and cleaning houses with her on the weekends myself, and when I could help out, uh, led me to wanting something to do in business. Math was always my strength, and like I said, I loved like this idea of strategy and football and um, all the things in sports. And I participated in current events, speech and debate in high school. So all these things kind of led me to say I needed to do something in business, and because I was good at numbers, I decided to explore finance. And with the goal, then I'm like, hey, if something changes, I could go work in Wall Street or something. That was like the dream then. Didn't work out that way because of other things, but it worked out the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure. And then tell me about after you finished college, did you go straight into the MBA program?
No, no. So there's a lot of years in between those two. When I finished college, I was working, like I mentioned, contract work and in the mortgage industry. I did that that's how I paid my last 2 years of college at Arizona State University.
Oh, wow.
I was working full time and going to school full time,
That's amazing.
and I stayed in that business for a little bit, and then I went to. I grew up in the as a Latter Day Saint, so I did my 2 year mission in Chicago from 2008 to 2010. Upon returning, the laws had changed in the mortgage industry, where if you had to work, you basically had to be individually licensed, and I couldn't be as an undocumented worker, as a contract worker like I was before. So I ended up getting other opportunities elsewhere. So that's where I work in insurance and supply chain. I use that hustle, right, to say these are my skills, and they're not limited to one industry, right? They're limited to everything.
Yeah, that is such a great point. I feel like the pandemic has given some people some time to reflect too, because there are so many transferable skills that you have. So some people have reinvented themselves because they might have been in a job that they hated, and they might have only been doing it for the money, and then the pandemic hit, and they kind of got some time to be home and be like, maybe I should just change course altogether. But it's great to hear like your story of just being so resilient. Like, even though you had all these barriers, there are certain things you couldn't even do, even if you wanted to, right? And you still found a way. That is just amazing.
You got to find a way to put bread on the table, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me has been amazing. Once the DACA program was instituted by President Obama, I was one of the first to apply, and once I got it, I ended up working full time in supply chain for a few years, and it was then that I was already considering my MBA. I knew in the back of my mind years before, when I was in the undergrad program, I knew that my trajectory was going to be different because of my status, right? And I always knew that I needed a rebranding, reinventing, and that was going to be an MBA. And so that was always in the back of my mind. I took GMAT 6 times, which is a ton. Again, to that resiliency, right?
There you go. Yeah.
And I ended up applying to a couple of programs. I got into Management Leadership for Tomorrow's MBA prep program. So MLT MBA prep. I was actually the first DACA person to go through that program.
Wow.
Right when they opened it up to those with DACA. And it helped me meet a ton of people throughout the country, a ton of Latinos, a ton of African Americans that were just amazing, some Native Americans too that were part of that program, and really expanded my options, opened my horizon, and meeting these amazing underrepresented minorities that are doing great things in the world, right? And meeting amazing people throughout the process of searching for the right MBA program. And during one of those sessions, I met Brian Johnson, who was then in admissions at University of Michigan, and he was a key person for me too. Ended up ultimately choosing the University of Michigan Ross School of Business to do my
That's
MBA.
nice. Yeah, it seems like a lot of like Latinos and Blacks and other minorities are so underrepresented in things like having the MBA degrees. In my own industry as well, financial planning and investment management, it's also a huge underrepresentation. As of like 2020, the number of Black and Latino CFP professionals are just slightly above 4% combined. And like you were saying, like our impact is going to continue to grow, just the population size in and of itself, right? So it's not representative of what the U.S. is going to look like in the years ahead. So tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing with Latinx MBA.
Yeah, so Latinx MBA Association was started in April 2020. It was the idea of one of our co-founders, Jessica Leon, to kind of like just get a spreadsheet together. Really, that's how it started, of the current Latinx club leaders at the different schools, right? The top 25 schools. So just kind of like get together here, sort of like you and I were talking earlier. We don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time, right? And so let's get everybody together. She got a couple of friends together she knew, and it blossomed into what is now the Latinx MBA Association. And our work there, we co-founded it, like I said, in April of last year. And since then, so in about 18 months, we've grown from the 5-6 of us that were at the beginning to now over 850 members in our database that have signed up that said they want to be part of our organization. And the idea is just like you mentioned, right? The 4% of CFP professionals. That's kind of about the number right now of MBAs that are like US Latinos. And by that we mean Latinos that grew up in the US, right? Latinx professionals, and those that maybe came from abroad to do an MBA and decided to make roots here, right? And work here. So our idea is to represent the Latinos that are here with an MBA. And if that 4% is spread across all top 25 business schools, you're a minority within a minority, right? And so bringing people together is what we do. And for us, those are our values. Like our values are familia. Like we're all a family. We got to have a continuous growth mindset. We have to have inclusivity and also be authentic, because our stories are, even though we're all Latinos, we're not a monolith, right?
Right.
And our stories come from everywhere. Maybe there's people like immigrants like me that came there first generation. There are people that are multi-generational that came from wealth, but are still willing to help out and bring the Latino collective together, right? Just kind of bringing those on socioeconomic points, right? And everything else in between, being authentic to our story and bringing people together. And that's where our goal, Latinx MBA Association, is. And just this last weekend, we had the first ever, we had a very historic event. We had the first ever retreat conference for Latinx MBA leaders at different schools. And so we had 31 attendees, 19 schools represented. And we had some great sponsors that donated a good amount of money for this to happen. And the best thing that happened there is that these students, these leaders, were able to get together and decide a point for the future, right? Not only for their clubs and to learn from each other what's working, all right? Not reinventing the wheel, like I mentioned, and really just magnifying that wheel and making commitments as alumni that they'll soon become.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, I like something that you mentioned about your unique story. I think a lot of us sometimes, myself included, kind of shy away from highlighting that story, for many different reasons. And I think that our story can have such an impact on other people, and we should definitely embrace it, because it is who we are, right? And some of us, like you said, we're not a monolith, so it's great to be able to show people like the different types of Latinos that there are out there, right? from all different backgrounds, people that were born and raised here, multi-generational people that came here and emigrated. They're all different stories, But I love the community that you guys have created. And for those listening, you can visit latinxmba.org if you want to know more about the organization. I'll put a link in the show notes as well so that you can click on it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. You mentioned your family has a background in it. You kind of grew up in it, right? Seeing your mom running the business, right? And I want to talk about a little bit about both like the joys and the challenges, right? Because I know a lot of the times you see, usually on social media, like, oh, start your own online business, and yeah, a lot of the times they just make it sound like, hey, it's like, yeah, just sign up for this course and you'll be up and running in no time and making money, So if you could share some of your stories, your own stories about like some of the successes and some of the challenges, in just the entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah, in my own journey, obviously when I was undocumented, it was knowing that I needed to provide services as a third party and kind of running my own little business there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's more like a side hustle that was a full-time hustle during that time. And it's really networking, right? Getting to know people, getting to know people and what they need. All right. And in the mortgage industry, the last few years since I've been back in the mortgage industry, I've worked in a more of what we call a self-source model, where I'm really my own boss, and all the loans that I get or something they come from me. Any marketing that I do, any networking that I do, they come from me, right? It's not like the company I'm working for is like, oh, here, we did all this millions of dollars of marketing. Here, talk to these people, and you get a commission off that, So in my case, I've been 100% commission employee, which is running my own business, right? and it's been great. The joys of it are that obviously you get rewarded, right? You make money. And in my world, I think the biggest joy is seeing somebody that thought they couldn't buy a home, right? That went to all these other different places with people that either their companies were limited into what they can do, or their employees didn't really know what they were doing because they just see a high volume of people and don't really learn how to do mortgages properly, and getting them a home.
Yeah.
Getting to that finish line where somebody's getting the keys is just amazing, because you didn't affect just that person, right? You affected a whole family. You affected the whole extended family that could come now for the carne asada at their home, right? Or anything like that, right? It's just such a joy to see that, because it takes them out from feeling that they're in the right race to coming in to home ownership, right? The American dream that a lot of them saw, whether it was themselves as first generation immigrants or, their third, fourth generation that felt that the system was against them and they can never own a home, but now they do.
Yeah, so a lot of job satisfaction there. Yeah, you being part of that solution for them. Absolutely. That's amazing. I used to do mortgages back in the day too, long time ago. So I definitely know what you're saying, because I used to go to closings and stuff. And I mean, people, like, that's such a milestone in people's lives, like to be able to purchase their own homes. And I was like, okay, we're going to raise our family here. It's something that impacts them for years to come, and eventually could also end up being a wealth generator for them as well, as they get appreciation in their homes. And eventually, it's something that could be passed down. I mean, there's so many ways of going about it, so it's great work.
And for many of my clients, I'm now doing, investment homes, right? They've gone from buying that first home, and now they're looking to invest more. And so now we're doing investment homes for them, which is it's a whole different thing. It's explaining things a lot differently, right? But it's an amazing thing, because you're seeing this growth, right? And I guess one of the joys for me is also being the trusted person.
Right.
They know I'm going to be straight with them. I'm not trying to sell them something. I'm not what I like to say, I'm not a transactional person where we're going to do one transaction. I'm here for your life.
Relationship, right? Yeah.
So it's a relationship that I want I want your kids to call me up when they're ready to buy a home. type of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. You're like, hey, man.
Which I've had so far. So
That's
kind of
awesome,
cool.
right?
And to go along with that, it's you asked me about the hard part there. The hard part is that you have to be constantly out there, right? You have to be constantly putting yourself out there. And for as many that do make it to the closing table, there's many that don't. There's people that talk to that you have to have the hard conversation to say, now is not the time for you. And you don't qualify now. These are the steps, and hopefully we can work with you. You let us work with you to make it there. But others that you have to say no, right? And that's I think sometimes the hardest part too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because you want to help everybody.
Yeah, but you have to be able to get your schedule together, know how to control your time management, because again, I'm not on a clock for anybody.
Right.
All right. And especially now, in the next step of my career, I've partnered with a great person here in the Phoenix, Arizona area, with Araceli Duarte, and we're opening up our own mortgage brokerage.
Oh, congratulations.
So we actually are registered now. It's going to be called Sensibly Home Loans, and we're in the process of licensing right now.
Nice. Oh, yeah. So you're adding also, yeah, at some point, I would imagine that you have the joy and the stress of managing people on top of that, right?
Yeah, of course. We all want to grow, and it's part of it. Having the control of your own tech stack, your control of the type of people you want to hire in your own company culture. And Araceli and I are very excited to bring that kind of like that authenticity that I mentioned and that honesty to help people reach their goals. So yeah, I mean, in that regard, right now, I represent two different companies: one in Arizona, one in California. So Sonoran Lending in Arizona and First West Financial in California. And waiting to see what Sensibly Home Loans really becomes.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Depending on when you're hearing this, Sensibly Home Loans.
Right. So, is that part of what keeps you motivated now, just to continue to like grow within your career, just continue to help people achieve their goals?
That definitely keeps me motivated to grow, right? One of the things that I've always said is, I went through all this education, I went through all this, and to be able to bring that to other people. So, I work in an industry where we're different than a lot of my classmates throughout all my education. There is no degree requirement to work in the mortgage industry. There's no to apply for this job, you need to have an MBA.
Right.
No, that's not the case.
You're overqualified for the industry.
Right. I mean, if you say it like so, I guess degree-wise, I might be for some of that. But the lessons I've learned through all that definitely apply to make me different and make me who I am in my work and in what I do in my community. And so I want to be able to bring that to not only the homeowner and people that we help, but also to those loan officers and those operations people that are going to be working with us in the future, to have that culture, have that availability, and have that dream that they can grow, whether it is with me to a certain degree and move on, or stay with us forever. I want people to feel that they can grow with us completely, and then that is part of my second half of motivation there. So I could keep just helping people and we're not worrying about it, but helping others reach these dreams in the real estate industry as professionals there is also very motivating.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, because you're having impact in multiple different ways with the end consumer, and then also helping people expand within their own careers. Yeah, that is a really great point. Let me ask you something. Was it scary for you to reach that point where you're like, all right, I'm ready to take this leap of faith now and kind of launch my own thing?
Yeah, I mean, it is, because you hear a lot of things about what it's going to take, right, to do so.
Right.
So it takes a great amount of research and talking to others to make sure that you're making the right decision. I guess in my mind is I wanted to go in with eyes wide open. So I don't when I talked to other people, it wasn't just like, tell me about the best things about being, a mortgage broker and you owning your own brokerage, right? I wanted to talk about what are the hard things. What are the things that you didn't expect? What are the traps that maybe you thought were so easy that were really hard, and the opposite as well. The things that you thought were really hard but were super simple. And so once you talk to enough people and you get the right idea of it, it becomes again, eyes wide open. So you make a decision and you go for it. And like I said, I have a great business partner who we met earlier this year and have worked together. And we're excited to be co-founders of this company and really bring that service and that authentic love to our clients.
Yeah, exciting times, and for sure.
Yeah, and that's whether they're buying the first home or buying their 20th home, right? Everybody needs somebody that could guide their hand on it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you need trusted professionals. No, this is amazing. I like what you said about when you wanted to go in eyes wide open, because you didn't want the rose-colored glass view. You're like, tell me the bad things too.
Yeah.
What didn't, So for people that are thinking about perhaps going on their own, definitely do your research. Find somebody that has already done what you've done or currently is doing it. Maybe whether it's in a mentor capacity or maybe they just take them out for a cup of coffee or something and pick their brain. Do your research for sure, because there's a lot of different things that maybe you don't even know what you don't know. Right?
Exactly. And there is one of the benefits of living in 2021, right? And in the world we live in now, is there's a lot of ways to outsource a lot of things that you used to be able to in the past.
True.
And so that helps you out a ton, right? Like if my payroll and HR, I could outsource that. So I don't have to be dealing with writing checks every week, right? Or going in there and putting it in. It's for a small fee, I can do that. Well, that's great, because there's another entrepreneur somewhere, right? Like a local CPA that runs their own thing,
right?
That's going to charge me like a small fee to do that, and they're doing their their hustle as well. So we all win. There's enough bread for everybody.
That's true. I love that you bring that up, because it's so true. I feel like when you're doing your own business, you have a specific talent, right? A specific thing that you love doing. And sometimes you lose sight of that as you grow, because then you end up wearing all these hats. So I'm glad you bring that up. Yeah, because I've been there too. I'm still in it right now in my own practice, where like I'm one person wearing hats, right? And ultimately, yeah, like who wants to be stuck running payroll and handling HR stuff when you're supposed to be out there helping people buy homes?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I love that you bring that up, because sometimes you don't necessarily have to hire people in your actual team to be able to delegate. There are other companies that you can just contract out for certain things like payroll, right? And you can use technology as well. I'm sure there was a time when you were taking 1003s by hand,
Exactly.
And, so that's such a great point. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Find, I think, as quick as possible, a way to delegate as many tasks as you can. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to cost a whole bunch of money, just because of the world we live in today. There are a lot of technologies out there that have been able to be scaled where you can, for a reasonable fee, just outsource a lot of the stuff. So that is great, man. Thank you for bringing that up. So what's next in terms of both like your business and also your vision for the organizations that you're part of, including Latinx MBA, like, say 5-10 years from now, what do you see those turning into ideally? What's your hope for those?
Well, as far as my business, I see us hopefully being in 5-10 years. I think we'll be in about 10 states. I think in the next 5 years, really in the next year or two, we're going to be in about 4 or 5 states. We want to expand that to be really strong in those states first before we go more. And I see us just helping thousands of people reach their home ownership goal every year, and their kids and their families and their extended families and the tios, tias, primos, the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a strong why.
And that's I see that I want to be that 70% home ownership growth that is going to be Latino. I want to be right in that too. but I also don't want to be just in the Latino business. I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity that deserves one. And that to me is what drives me. That, I like I mentioned, I went to inner city high school. My high school had, at the time I was there, yeah, we were 55% Latino, but we had like 67 or 80 nationalities represented there. We had a lot of refugees. It was a very diverse school. And growing up there at Central High in Phoenix was something that I will forever be thankful in my life, because I got to meet people from everywhere. I got to see people from all walks of life. And, we were still inner city. So everybody had the hope for something there.
Right.
Right. The hope was still there. And I think it's still there for a lot of people, even if they graduated 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30, whatever it is, the hope is still there. And to me, in my story, in my personal story, it's always been that you're never done, right? It's never too late.
True.
Like when I went to an MBA, I was one of the older ones on my MBA program. It was some of the older ones than me, right? But I could have said, I'm too old, I don't want to go, right? And my personal availability is that it's never too late. So in the same way, it's never too late for home ownership for all these people. And so that's on the business side. On Latinx MBA side, it's never too late to bring alumni together. There's programs that help a lot of people get into MBA programs. But after that, there's not one association that really brings alumni together from specifically MBA programs.
They're on their own island.
Yeah, there's Latino professionals and there's organizations that do a great job there. But specifically MBA alumni that in the vast majority of the world have specific recruiting, specific roles, specific things that they could accomplish. That's not there. And obviously most of our members right now are alumni, but we want to increase that network to where it is a real family, a real community. Where it exists now at a smaller scale, we want it to be big. We want it to be the organization that brings those people together, and not only brings them together, and that's fine. You had a party, great, but really excels our Latino community to those boards, to those places of leadership, to those decision makers, and at the top companies, and not only like the bigger companies, but the people that have influence in this country.
Yeah.
And that if our growth is, like on the homeownership side, come from the Latino side, then our influence should come from the Latino side as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. Love it. Thank you so much, Ivan. I wanted to ask you one last thing, and that was, if you are in an elevator ride with somebody, it's a short 30-second ride, and they're never going to see you again, what are some things that you would like for them to take away for just from having met you from that very short time? Some pieces of advice or anything you'd like to share?
I kind of just mentioned that, but it really is that it's never too late to do what you love. You always have the door of opportunity is ready for you. And so if you thought about that small business, if you thought about that relationship, if you thought about that one thing you wanted to do, that one trip you want to do, it's never late. It's never too late. And you should live your best life to where you're at today. Regardless of what's happened in the past, you can do the best today. Regardless of things that have stopped you in the past, you can be the best today and in the future and move forward.
I love it. Yeah, I think there's a saying that says something like energy flows where attention goes, or something like that. So that kind of speaks to me when you're saying that, because it's so true. I think where there's a will, there's a way, and you're living proof of that. You had so many barriers that could have easily said, hey, man, this is not for me, and just kind of settle for the easiest, the path of least resistance. And you still just continue to go at it and still do, right? Still have your growth mindset and your impact mindset of trying to help others, both professionally and in their personal lives, man. So thank you for the work that you're doing out there, man. And I look forward to, if you're ever in the LA area, I look forward to meeting up with you at some point.
You bet. And like I said, I have business in California, so I'll be there, sure.
Awesome. Tell us about your podcast too, where we can find you, social media, your podcast, anywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. You can find me on social media, on Instagram at Home Loan MBA is my business one. At The Salsa Dancer is the other one. The
All
personal
right.
one. Surprising. And at Home Loan MBA and on Facebook as well. The podcast is called the Home Loan MBA Podcast. And so it's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. and there'll be a new season coming out here soon. If there are any topics that people want to discuss that haven't been discussed yet, feel free to reach out to me. The contact info is all there, and it'll be here on the notes here.
Awesome. We'll put everything, all those links in the show notes as well, so that people can just click on it and go directly to those sites. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ivan. I appreciate it, man. And best of luck with the new venture, and I'm sure you're going to do excellent.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you have any questions or any topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, send us an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.